Christina's Ghost, Chapter 2, The Strange House in the Woods. Ugh. Chris's eyes flew open. She sat up straight. Beside her, Uncle Ralph clutched the steering wheel and groaned with every bump. "It's okay, baby," he muttered. Chris realized he was talking to his car. "Hang in there, sport." They were on a narrow, winding road. Trees brushed the car windows, and the headlight beams bounced against a curtain of green. "Are we nearly there?" Chris asked. "We'd better be," Uncle Ralph snapped. His longish gray hair straggled across his forehead. Even his dark mustache looked flustered. The Chevy made another jouncing turn and stopped. They were in a wide stretch of overgrown lawn. "Well, well," Uncle Ralph said. "How about that?" Chris stared. There was light here, beyond the tree-lined road. Before them was one of the strangest houses she'd ever seen. It had towers and gables and carved trimmings over every window. The whole house was painted and a sickly gray-green. It looked like a moldy wedding cake. "I thought we were going to a cottage," Chris said, when she could speak. "Maybe a log cabin on a lake." "Well, there certainly is a lake," Uncle Ralph said. "Use your eyes, Christina." Sure enough, metal-colored water glinted beyond the house. "I never said it was a cottage," Uncle Ralph went on. "My friend inherited this place from his uncle. It was the one family home. People called Charles. Something happened, something pretty bad, I guess, and they moved out." He began lifting boxes and suitcases from the car. "The uncle looked after the house for the last 30 years. He tried to sell it, but there weren't any takers. My friend's going to unload it this fall as soon as he gets back from Europe." Uncle Ralph turned to look at the house again. "He may just have to give it away," he said thoughtfully. Chris realized that the house had taken him by surprise as well. She picked up her suitcase and followed Uncle Ralph across the grass and up the steps. The key to the back door was very big. It turned with a scratchy sound, and they went inside. Uncle Ralph muttered to himself as he searched for a light switch. Chris felt a moment of panic before the weak overhead light flicked on and showed them the huge, old-fashioned kitchen. The floor was made of bricks. There was a smell of musty pipes. "Cozy as a tomb," Uncle Ralph said. Chris agreed with him. She stayed close, so close as he led the way through the downstairs, that a couple of times she stepped on his heels. "Christina, there's plenty of room here. No need to walk on me." So a tomb is like where you put dead people, right? It's like a cemetery. So when he says cozy as a tomb, he doesn't mean it's nice. He means it's, bad. "Sorry." What a crab, she thought. And there were days and days, maybe weeks of crabbiness ahead. She followed Uncle Ralph down the hall, past a tiny bathroom under the stairs, and into a wide foyer. On the left was a parlor crowded with furniture. On the right was a formal dining room. Even with the lights turned on, shadows filled every corner. They crossed the dining room into a smaller room with a fireplace and a desk. Books lined 2 walls and part of a third. "This will be my study," Uncle Ralph said, sounding a little less grumpy. He ran his fingers over a row of books. "You can go along upstairs and pick out a bedroom, Christina. Take your duffel bag with you, please." Chris went back to the front hall and looked up the stairs to the darkness above. Suddenly, the house seemed to close around her like a trap. She struggled with the front door until it opened and stepped outside just as Uncle Ralph came into the hall. "I bet this place is haunted," she challenged him through the screen. Uncle Ralph shook his head. "A typical Christina comment," he said. "Don't be silly." Chris fled across the wide porch and down the steps. A flagstone path led to the shore, ending at the pier built on concrete slabs. Her sneakers made a soft slap-slap sound as they darted to its very end. She threw herself down and pressed her face against the concrete. It was still warm from the setting sun. For the second time that day, tears dampened her cheeks. "Who cares what he says?" she whispered to herself. "He's the silly one, not me." After a while, she lifted her head and looked down at the water licking the pilings. It made a good sound, like chuckling voices. Two ducks skidded across the surface of the lake, then settled peacefully in the water. On either side of the lawn, trees crowded down to the shore. Chris took a quavery breath and sat up. The lake was beautiful. She was happy to have a lake, even if everything else was dreadful. She swung around, aware that someone was watching her. "Go away, Uncle Ralph," she said silently. "Don't spy on me." But it wasn't Uncle Ralph. At the shore at the end of the pier, there was a little boy that stood there. He had big eyes and a solemn face, like a sad face. And he wore an old-fashioned sailor suit with short pants and a broad collar. A little kid, Chris marveled. Out here in the woods all by himself? He must be lost. "Hi!" she shouted and started to scramble to her feet. But just then the sun peeked out from behind the cloud bank, and the pier, the lawn, and the house itself were swallowed up by the glittering flash. Chris blinked her eyes, and when the light returned to normal, she blinked again. The boy was gone. It was as if he was never there at all.